Yes. Greetings, y'all. Yes, you're in tune to Cosmic Fruit Show. And yes, you're here with Brother Siayome, a.k.a. Cosmic All Mystic, a.k.a. Abon Krem. And yes, you're in tune with Cosmic Roots, Cosmic Reality of Our True Selves. I trust y'all are well and you're ready for some more cosmic journeys inwardly. You know, the expansion of consciousness. What they say, space is the final frontier. Well, it's inner space, and know that and be clear. Because, that's the final frontier. You know, people seldomly take the journey within, but they're globetrotting all over the place, and think that because they're in a certain particular external place, this is what self-discovery is and all of that. That's the Gemini mercurial mind external. Anyway, but the journey is within. You see what I'm saying? The journey is within. So, yes, soul brothers and sisters, those of you who are tuning in right now, live on YouTube, you should be able to hear my voice loud and clear and know that you are tuned in to Cosmic Roots Show. For those of you who alternative ways of tuning in, right now you can go online and which is www.blessradio.org. That's www.blessradio.org. And you can tune in on the internet via the net to Bless Radio. Bless Radio. The telephone number to call in, y'all, for those who feel activated, inspired, taking notes on what's not and feel they want to contribute and say something. That call-in number is 079-443-1366. That is 079-443-1366. So, yeah. So, last strong, I was talking about, intuition and intellect. And was given a bit more for clarification and breakdown about the left and right hemispheres of the brain and the difference between external information gathering and intuition. Due to some technical problems last Tuesday, it was brought to my attention eventually that those who were listening to my show on YouTube let me know that my voice didn't kick in until after 1 hour and 14 minutes. For some reason, it was just a little silent. So some folk might have tuned in and heard nothing and thought, what's up with the show? But if you forwarded it to 1 hour and 14 minutes, you then get my voice kicking in for the next 50 minutes. So I will, for the sake of those who may not have realized what happened, and might have just tuned out from that particular show because they thought it wasn't working. I'm going to do a summary of what I was talking about last strong in order to set up and flow into this evening's topic, which is about archetypes. But it's really going to be going into the animus and the anima. The animus and the anima are the masculine, the divine masculine, and the divine feminine qualities, or the divine masculine forces and the divine feminine qualities that reside within the man and within who we say the woman, okay? But these are aspects of the soul that we need to actually know and understand ourselves, because archetypes. I'm going to break this all down anyway. Shortly, and thank you. Yes, yes, and I'm just getting yes. Excuse me, y'all. Yeah, just getting some messages on my phone here. Awkward timing for some folk, and the correct timing for others. Thank you, Sister Esther. Yes, you're tuning in. Wonderful. Glad to hear that. And I'd like to give a shout out to all of those who are tuning in right now. And yeah, just going to be warming up to get things on the road. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play another tune, y'all. And yeah, I'm going to play, yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to play, yeah, I'm going to play a dubwise tune. And yeah, be back with you very shortly. Come on. 1, 2.
No love at all. Ain't got no love in your heart. Ain't got no love in your heart. Ain't got no love. Ain't got no love in your chart. Ain't got no love. For if you did love your brother, no love.
Oh yeah, man, I love dub, y'all. You see, that's King Tubby there for you. And yeah, man, that's some old school dub, and that is just roots. Yeah, I love dubs, y'all. You see them thing there? Man, enough soul vibrations in them, well, real originals, you know? So, and because me love it so much, I think say I got drop our next one. Dubwise style, you see? Yeah. Alright, let me drop here another one, y'all. And then we're going to get into the groove of this evening's topic, which is about the anima, the masculine, feminine aspects of our nature within. And y'all, if you're not dealing with that, you're going to get cracked. All right? And I'll explain exactly what I mean. after I share with you this. Yeah, that was some dub vibes for you from King Tubby and so forth selection. Okay, so gonna go into this evening's topic, y'all. I haven't really fully got a name for it specifically yet, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be going into archetypes, okay? But I'm gonna give a little rendition of what I was talking on last strong, just to clarify some things and just to lay up the foundation for where I'm gonna go this evening. So first I'll just explain what is archetypes. What are archetypes? Because I'm saying it, some folk don't get what I mean. But you can go and check out the word arche, yeah, ruler. That's what arche is, ruler, and type is quite explanatory. So it's the ruling types. That's what the word actually indicates. But what is it? What are archetypes in themselves? So basically, archetypes are basically the forces simultaneously at work in nature and within man, within ourselves, within our own psyche, okay? So it's the first principle. Arc, as in to rule, okay? So it's the first principle, which is the foundation of the center of any structure of thought, some would say belief system, and so forth. So archetypes are essentially the forces which are simultaneously at work in nature and within ourselves, which govern the forces and the patterns of life. Okay? So when I'm referring to archetypes, realize these are forces that are active within you as well as within nature. Okay? And when they talk, and when you're hearing the thing about nature, we got to become one with nature. You got to understand nature external to you is a reflection and also a projection and also an indication of the direction that one has to then begin to focus inwardly upon within themselves. Okay? You got the externalization where you're looking outward at a mirror reflection or an energetic mirror. Okay? But as you know, when you're looking in the mirror is just a reflection. So to connect with the reality, you have to focus your attention upon you. Okay? So there's the inner nature that the outer nature is trying to, well, the outer observable nature is pointing as a finger indicating to a direction, okay, where you need to look within yourself to discover your true inner nature. And these archetypes that I'm mentioning, the archetypes are the forces that are work within nature and simultaneously are at work within ourselves, okay? These are the forces which govern and patterns of life. Or did I put that correct? I should put it another way. Archetypes are also the forces, okay, or the first principles, okay, the rudiments, which govern the forces and patterns of life. So this is all within you, all right? This is within ourselves. And a lot of us, because we don't understand archetypes, we're projecting things onto the outside on a outer screen, and not really understanding what we're doing. We're projecting what actually is being triggered within ourselves, forces that are triggered within ourselves, and we project this stuff on the outer mirror and think that the source is out there when the origin of the force is within you. But so now I've said about archetypes, okay? I am now going to go into a bit of a summary to do related to what I was referring to last Tuesday. Because I was breaking down, the difference between the intellect and the intuition, and how the intellect is limited, and how more time that is what people are using and believing that they are gathering knowing through the intellect. And you definitely are not gathering knowing through the intellect. Yes, you can gather a diversity of information. And that diversity of information is just information where the intellect, without accessing your intuition, cannot discern what facts are true to what facts are false. And when you're dealing with the intellect predominantly without activating the intuition, which is the right brain, then what happens is more time you got folks just dealing with their own mental bias, their own mental biases, which is what people then hold on to, and you create arguments out of that. You got people that says, well, I have my opinion. Like opinion is something that is based upon truth, when opinions are based upon the information you being programmed with. This becomes intellectual pride and the psychology of the personality. And you'll hear people go on as if to say, they'll always give you an intellectual, response to something that's far more deeper than the intellectual reaction, okay, coming from their personality, conditioning. You know what I'm saying? These type of things. And they're not really tapping into truth. So anyway, let me and then that's going to be funny with some people like truth. Well, you know, how do you know what is the truth? And from an intellectual level, yeah, because of the diversity of information, truth is actually relative. Okay? Because what's one man's truth may be somebody else's, may not be somebody else's truth. You see what I'm saying? Because it's true to those who own what they're holding as true and want to believing. However, when you're dealing with information at just an intellectual level, what you're holding on as truth ain't necessarily in alignment with universal laws or natural law, you see? It's not reflecting natural law or universal truth. It's just dealing with man-made laws, man-made beliefs, man-made indoctrinations. And they then now become distortions to natural law, okay? Distortions to universal and natural law. And this is where you end up, will get these distortions being acted out and played out in the environment, coming through people who have distortion beliefs and don't know how to discern between natural, universal truth and man-made laws, okay? And the thing is that it's easy to discern if you tune and align with natural law, okay? Everything. All right, I'm not going to divert away from where I'm going because, yeah, I feel I just need to firstly do a recap. So firstly, I was talking about Gemini and Sagittarius, which are the archetypes in astrology, which actually refer to the left and side brain. Yeah, their left side and the right brain, okay? And when I was explaining about Gemini, as I said, these archetypes are within you, all right? And these are forces which are acting within you, all right? And when you're ignorant to archetypes and understand what makes up your psyche, you don't know how to relate to yourself correctly, all right? And this also ends up making people, it's where you'll get people in certain mental states that the society does not involve or include your soul or spirituality when they're dealing with so-called treating you for certain mental issues you may have. And because of that, they will just medicate you, okay? All right? Because they're just left-brained, okay? What the intellect cannot comprehend or what it goes beyond the intellect, it will then distort, you okay? Through its limitation, because the intuition is not being worked with alongside with the intellect. So let me just break down some of this, y'all. So when we're dealing with Gemini, and when I say Gemini, Gemini is basically your air sign, but it's the planetary energy that governs Gemini as well as Virgo. Is mercurial, Mercury. So I am not just limiting the operation of Mercury on the sign of Gemini. Gemini and Mercury are the same thing, okay? So when you're dealing with someone who's mercurial, it means that they're very intellectual and left-brained, okay? And the thing with, and Mercury governs Gemini and Mercury governs Virgo. Now, the difference here is that Mercury operating through Gemini is where one is dealing with information from the outside. So you're depending upon external information. You're being fed, okay? And when Mercury is operating in Virgo, it's more now of an internal operation of how the intellect is functioning. Rather than external, it's internal, okay? But it's still the intellect, okay? It's still the intellect. So Gemini, or the mercurial energy, correlates with the collection of a variety of or diversity of data and information from the external environment. This archetype symbolizes the need to order and classify the world and information we collect in a logical, empirical manner. So we then make larger and larger connections to the world through the information we collect, so that ultimately we can come to a broader understanding of ourselves, where we fit in the grand scheme of things. Now, I will emphasize here that facts rather than deeper metaphysical truths is all that the intellect actually functions on. It deals with facts and superficial information. It does not deal with the deeper metaphysical truths, okay? It emphasizes, or I would say that it's more of an emphasis on facts, which is just about the gathering of external information. Now, when you're dealing with Sagittarius, well, when you're dealing with Sagittarius, Sagittarius is what correlates, or shall I say, Sagittarius is synonymous with the right brain, okay? The right brain. The right brain is dealing with intuition. The right brain, when I'm talking about Sagittarius, correlates to the need to understand, okay, our connection to the universe in a cosmological, metaphysical, or philosophical context. All right? This need then creates a belief system or structure of the soul. In the archetype of Scorpio, we are seeking to merge with a higher source of power or universal forces in order to affect evolution, which is change, okay? And, you know, I'm going to go into Scorpio a little later on today, because this whole thing about Scorpio is dealing with merging. Scorpio's dealing with sexuality, y'all. And I'm going to go into a talk about the energies that women also give to men in exchange with men, not just what men exchange with women. Okay? And I'm going to go into that in a little while. And why, as I mentioned, Scorpio, I decided to go there because Scorpio is about this deep inner urge to merge, okay, with source. Okay? But because it's also about a deep inner urge to feel empowered, Scorpio can be attracted to whatever symbolizes or that which symbolizes power to the Scorpio. Because the Scorpio is wanting to merge with it, you see. But you see, the left brain, the intellect, is very drawn externalized and outward. And what happens here is that what we perceive we lack in ourselves, we seek to merge with that externally to ourselves, okay? And in order to, through a process of osmosis, integrate that within, you see? And to keep things simple, because this can get, this gets kind of complex in a way that you have to get deeper in your thinking beyond the superficial externalization of the intellect, okay, which depends and relies upon facts only. All right, you can get people just full of facts, full of external information. This is when they become very intellectual, and they come from their mind when they go to, if you ask them, or if any deeper question is posed to them, they come from their mind. All right, they're not speaking from what they know or any direct experience. They're speaking from the storehouse of information in their mind, okay? And this becomes a very strong limitation because it's mixed up with your own mental biases and opinions and not necessarily able to discern between what facts are true to what facts are false. And so what happens is there's a lot of projection from unresolved or lack of true comprehension to the information at hand, okay? And as I was saying last Tuesday is that, you know, there's a limitation with the intellect. And as I said, the intellect is more about external gathering of information. It, you know, because this is the need to communicate. And there's a need to communicate what you've learned as a way of processing that information, you see, from the intellectual level. You know, what we have absorbed in the intellect. But the risk in this particular archetype and way, you know, is that you can get too much information, too much data that connects in so many logical ways that people can just mentally implode, okay? This is when you're taking in too much external data and you don't know how to correlate that data, right, with what is actually true to what is actually false. You know, and that data can be very contaminated by your conditioning, your cultural and societal conditioning that you've come in here and been conformed to, all right? So you think your identity is based upon your cultural and societal conditioning, when actually that's part of your limitation. That's part of the illusion, you see? And a lot of people don't want to challenge their own cultural conditioning or societal conditioning and values and beliefs. You know, a lot of this stuff is just man-made beliefs and man-made indoctrinations. All right? And this is why what's happening in this day and time now, there's a lot of revolting. There is a lot of need to liberate and individuate oneself from the conditioned mind, from social and conditional conditioning to decondition one's individualized unconscious. And look, let me just add in here, yeah, that we have completed a particular cycle of 7 years where Uranus has been in Aries for 7 years. Uranus symbolizes the individual or the individualized unconscious, and is also the liberating force in the soul that seeks to liberate the soul from man-made beliefs, okay? All false ideologies that one has been conforming to as one's identity, or basing one's sense of identity from, and in that has been suppressing their true intrinsic identity, which is what Aries symbolizes, the special purpose to be free and independent, to be able to discover and recover one's true identity and to express oneself in order to be able to discover this identity. But we're talking about the intrinsic. Intrinsic is related to what is natural and essential. The natural and essential, the essence of the natural and essential identity of one. Not the conditioned, conformed, you know, constructed sense of identity based upon, you know, conforming to cultural and societal beliefs, which are man-made. Yeah, a lot of this is man-made, ego-driven concepts and indoctrinations. So a lot of people are suppressing who they really are based upon the tension built up within, based on conforming to these false ideas. For example, what do I mean? Each individual, each soul comes in here, is like, look, you is like, the consciousness is like water. This water symbolizes timelessness and formlessness. And then you got a vessel or a cup or a glass, and that represents time, space, and matter, okay? Now the vessel represents time and limits, where the water represents timelessness and formlessness. All right? Let me hit it again. Your vessel or the cup represents time and form, whereas your consciousness represents timelessness, and formlessness. Now, when that water is poured into the cup, then the water takes on the form of the cup. So now the consciousness, i.e. the water, has now conforming to the structure, the limitation of the cup, and is now become conditioned with the cup through now identifying or identification. Okay? That's what happens when the soul incarnates into a physical form. The soul, which is consciousness, timeless and formless, awareness, intelligence, when it's poured into the cup, it takes on the form of the cup. It's conditioned by the cup. So the consciousness now starts to identify with the cup, which is now limitations, boundaries, okay, structure, all right, which now represent the cultural and societal environment, okay, that as a soul you have now incarnated in and now have taken on and become conditioned consciousness now based upon the conformity of the culture and societal values that you have been born into, okay? So what happens now, the more you're identifying, or when you're identifying with the form, the structure, which represents the culture and the societal values, indoctrinations, conditioning, you're going to derive a sense of identity from that. You're going to say, this is who you are. Now, what happens here is that when that takes place, the soul, your inner being now, can feel it does not fully resonate with the cultural or societal conditioning that it has through being born in that culture. It doesn't resonate with it. Okay, so you're going to feel a bit out of sorts, but you end up conforming because at first it's a whole idea about being a part of a group and where you derive your sense of belonging and security from, okay, and sense of identity, okay? But as you grow, you get to a point, or even from a young child, you can feel to yourself something about what I've been taught here and what I am saying, what is supposed to be my identity, my culture, my societal values and views. I don't seem to fit in with this. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not really your true identity. It's a construct. All right? But if you don't conform to it, you will in a way feel ostracized. Or many people are in a culture that they feel alienated within because they don't really feel they fit in with their values, okay, and beliefs. So this is an indication that you are dealing with a program if you have that awareness from young. But a lot of folk actually just embrace the conditioning, you know what I mean, the illusion, and just become a herd mentalist, a herd mind, okay? So so they don't really wake up to know who they truly is because they're deriving their sense of identity from the conditioning, okay? When I said that the consciousness is the water, symbolizing the water, which is being poured into the cup, the vessel, which is the culture, the conditioning, the societal values, and now identifies with the vessel, the cup. But the consciousness is the water, it's not the cup. The more one then now begins to wake up to, like the consciousness waking up to its own self, water's becoming aware that it is water, not the cup, not the glass that it's in. You know, understand the way I'm saying all of this. I'm trying to make it easier to comprehend when I'm talking about consciousness, your soul, differently to the conditioning, okay, that you're conforming to. Yeah? The soul, i.e., like water, represents timelessness and formlessness. When it wakes up to its own self, it realizes it's not the cup. And now it seeks to know where is the source of water. Not the source of form, but where's the source of water? Where's the source of consciousness? And this is when the soul now, consciousness, becoming self-realized as consciousness, begins to realize its identity is within the boundless ocean of consciousness. You see what I'm saying? And is one with it. So this is when the individuating process begins. And this is where the intellect becomes the limitation. And you have to go past the intellect to activate your intuition to get a broader and deeper understanding of the information you've gathered from the outside and have become dependent upon. Because that's the left brain, okay? That's the left brain. And, you know, people can be caught up in holding on to a lot of outdated and rigid opinions within themselves that are creating blocks, right, from an evolutionary point of view, yeah, relative to their soul's growth and development, or the waking up process, which is what we're in now worldwide, spiritual awakening. But it is the awakening of consciousness to its own self, where it's no longer identifying with the cultural conditioning, the force identity, okay? It's so what has happened for the last 7 years, Uranus has been in Libra, in Aries. Aries is the sign opposite Libra, y'all. So Aries is about self-identity. It's about who am I? It's about the discovery of one's true self. All right? That's what Aries represents, and it represents a new cycle because it rules the first house. But when you have Uranus in there, it means that there is a deconditioning that have been going on for the last 7 years in how people have been associating or relating to themselves. So there has been this need to kind of break free from a lot of this conditioning, cultural, societal limitations, you see, force identifications, in order to be able to discover one's true intrinsic identity, true intrinsic self. So when I says that Gemini is about the intellect and the absorbing of information depending upon external information and data, which is the left brain, then I said that Sagittarius now represents the right brain, and Sagittarius is more interested in having not an intellectual, logical understanding of itself, but instead a cosmological and metaphysical, all right, comprehension of oneself. Because the right brain is where we connect to is the polarity of Gemini. So let me just hit this out. The polarity point of Gemini is Sagittarius. So anybody who just, you don't even have to know anything too much about astrology just to work out that as long as you know the archetypes of the signs, when you look at them, you always have to look at the opposite sign to the one you're looking at to get the polarity point. And this is what balances up that sign that you're dealing with. So for example, if you're an Aquarius, you have to realize that the polarity point of Aquarius is Leo. All right? And therefore, that's the part you go to balance yourself up if you find yourself too much in the extreme of one sign or the other. So the polarity point of Gemini is Sagittarius, okay? If you were looking at Sagittarius, then you would say that the polarity point of Sagittarius is Gemini, Or if you were looking at Leo, you would say that the polarity point of Leo is Aquarius. That's what I mean by polarity point. So you have to look at the opposite sign because you got two hemispheres to you in order that makes you up to be whole, okay? And so you got to understand you got your left brain, right brain, and it have to work as one. So the polarity point of Gemini is Sagittarius, and Sagittarius correlates to the right brain, which is our intuition, and corresponds to the need to understand our life or to understand life in a metaphysical, cosmological, or philosophical manner. The Sagittarius symbolizes our belief structure. Our beliefs are the determinant on how any of us will interpret life, whereas Gemini reflects the process of collecting a diversity of information from the external environment. Sagittarius reflects the process of assimilation and interpretation of those facts into a holistic understanding, okay, which is our belief system Ultimately, we realize through the Sagittarius polarity point that the truth exists in and of itself and cannot be known by the rational mind alone. Okay? The key here is to learn the difference between fact and opinions. Now, my people, just doing that to kind of do a rendition, just catch up on, just to clarify on last Tuesday when I was breaking down the difference between the intellect and intuition. Now, a lot of folk want to try to understand a lot of these changes through the confines and limitations of their conditioning. And they want to defend and hold on to this false identity. And this false identity is held onto because of the insecurity that comes forth. Okay, the insecurity. The insecurity that is coming forth from the attachment to what's familiar. But just because something's familiar, it doesn't, what happens is that when you're attached to what you're considering as familiar, you see, you are limiting your ability to grow when you stay in the same old mold. Some people don't want to venture out from their neighborhood, for example, because it's familiar. This is where their emotional patterns of security has been formed. And what happens is that in order for them to grow, they're going to have to venture out beyond that which they're familiar with. You see what I'm saying? And what happens, usually there is an anxiety experience when you begin to move away from that which is familiar to you, because that is where your emotional security patterns have come from. And when you stay stuck in where in what's familiar, it now becomes you're holding on to the past. You can't move forward. You can't grow and expand beyond what you're familiar. So now what you're familiar with now becomes your limitations. And you can't grow beyond your familiarity in order to get to know that which you were, you're not familiar with. Until, you see, everything that you know now was once in the unknown. So therefore, in order to know something more, you need to go into the unknown, you see. But people fear the unknown. There's an anxiety between it. And usually this unknown is themselves. So a lot of people are afraid of who they intrinsically are because they have been identifying for so long with a program, a cultural, societal conditioning, external information gathered, what you've been taking in from the external, huh? And then you're using that to concoct some type of idea of an identity as, of yourself. Now, this is where the limitations, kick in. And we're living where we've just completed the cycle of a deconditioning of the individual unconscious. So people are now going to be having to kind of, they're going to be, how can I say, you're going to have to really look into yourself. You got to be real with yourself. There's a new sense of identity that is going to be emerging, right, coming forth within the next 7 years. Now that Uranus is going to move out of Aries in March in order to enter into Taurus. Okay? So therefore, there's going to be a change in your inner values and the personal relationship you're having with yourself. And there's going to be a healing to your personal sense, your sense of value. As you discover your true identity is not what you have been conformed and conditioned to think it is and believe it is. A lot of oppression, suppression of natural emotions, have created a lot of problems for individuals because they've never been able to feel that they could be themselves. You see what I mean? And who is the self? We're talking about the soul. A lot of people want to be a person because when you tell them about soul, they keep telling you about, but that's the persona, isn't it? And
It's well, it's it's the persona and it's how you express yourself in the outer world, and it's the soul expressing through you, all of that type of stuff. And it's just like I see that a lot of people don't want to wake up to who they really are. They just want to be a mask, because persona means your mask. It's like saying that you are the same as the clothes, when you cannot be the same as the clothes. You're the wearer of the clothes, and the clothes is being worn by the wearer. So how can a persona be you? How can the mask be you? The mask is the mask. The clothes is the clothes. But who's the wearer of the mask and who's the wearer of the clothes? You understand? So you're going to have people based on cognitive dissonance and intellectual identification with no connection to their intuition, hold on to information which is superficial and unreal, because they're depending only upon the intellect. Now, let me get deeper here. And there's a lot of energies and waves go. This year the frequencies are getting higher and faster, okay? And you may even be feeling like you want to kind of, catnap more often. Catnap more often than, you just feel you just want to rest, man. It's like, what's going on, You see? But the thing with this is that these energies are really changing. I'm talking on some deep DNA levels, activations, subatomic, you know what I mean? Activations, okay? There's a lot of changes taking place deeply within. The physical form is changing, okay? In order to harness these higher light codes coming in of your soul, the photonic light, okay? The whole planet, the solar system's moving into a photonic belt, yeah? Is moving into a photonic stream of light as it's moving in deeper into the galaxy. We're dealing with, we got about how many galaxies? We're in the 18th galaxy, yeah? So that means that there's, basically this change that we're going into, which is indication of the old paradigm, the old Piscean age that we're coming out of, to enter into the Aquarian age. There is a lot of this this is where the deconditioning in the consciousness is getting more intense, because you cannot carry the old paradigm into the new. But you got people who want to hold on to the old separative paradigm, and they're resisting the new paradigm, which is the Aquarius, which is the time to know thyself, okay? Know that source and I is one. You see what I'm saying? So the symptoms, the physical symptoms, you may be hearing a lot of high-pitched sound frequencies moving right through your head from one side to the other. You're hearing frequencies in your ears that you're like, what's going on here? All of this is to do with the frequency shifts in consciousness, okay? Entities, energies tuning into you, or you tuning into them, because we're so conditioned to believe that life only exists within form, that if you cannot detect something with your five senses, then what you can't detect with those limited tactile senses, you get afraid about, or you can't understand, or you know what I'm saying? You're trying to wrestle it with your intellect, and the intellect's limited, yeah? In really trying to gain the truth about what goes beyond your five limited senses. You have to connect with the 7 higher senses inside of yourself, okay? That gives you 12 senses, all right? 12 higher senses, because the 5 senses are going to be modified by the inner 7 higher senses. So, and I did a thing about senses, talked about the senses, and, there is, there is about the expansion of your soul consciousness. This is what it's about. People can be very resistant to change, and it will cause themselves suffering, because they want to hold on to their mental conditioning. You see? And as I said already, and see, when you're dealing with the mind, you got to realize your mind is a mediator between the spirit all right, between your spirit and what you want to call your physical. You see, your mind is a mediator. Your mind isn't you. You see what I'm saying? Your mind's a mediator. So, you know, the thing is that you got to wake up to the soul consciousness in this day and time. And it's not for everybody, because some folk, I'm telling you now, man, some folk, they're holding on to want to be a person, okay? They don't want to see that there's more than the superficial externalization of themselves. A lot of people are even afraid of who they really is. So, anyway, there is this change and this energy, the frequencies. You're going to feel these symptoms in your body. You're going to want to sleep more. You know, you're feeling a bit dazed out. You could just close your eyes and just zoom into a different time. Zoom into a different parallel reality. You know what I'm saying? This is how these energies, people are going to experience it differently. But this year, these energies are ramping up and getting faster. Like last year, they were faster than the year before that, and previously before that. Each year, the energies have been getting faster and faster and faster. So this year, they're getting faster than last year. And next year, they're going to get even faster than this year. So there's going to be a lot of changes, yo. You know, big time changes. And, but you see, the more you hold on to, you see, the past has to be let go of. And the past is what you call familiar. And the more you hold on to what's familiar, the more you're going to cause a cataclysmic suffering in yourself, because you're dealing with insecurities. That's the reason why you're holding on to what you're attached to based upon familiarity. You see what I mean? And the soul comes in here, right, in order to purge itself from the past and the limitations that come from those security patterns that it's got attached to from the past. You have to move in the forward direction, not backwards. You know what I'm saying? So you can see a lot of folk are going to be just grabbing on based on security. They don't want to let go, because their sense of security is coming from the external, not the internal. Oh, man. You see what I'm saying? Their sense of emotional empowerment is dependent upon external. So you're going to see many people fighting for power over power. Yeah? And you got folk who is, you know, the emotional security, again, is based on external, you see? So based rather than internal. You see, we reached to a point where we got to parent ourselves. Man, there's a lot flowing through me right here now, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I don't want to confuse you all as it starts to just kick in, because this is what's taking place, the process of what's going on. You have to understand yourself. You see, maturity, spiritual maturity takes place inside, where you got to grow beyond the emotional insecurities that you're still looking, you know, you're still holding on to from childhood, from what you may not have received from a parent, or, you know, or one parent, you know, being absent, or not even a parent. You know, people have been abused and all of this type of kind of thing as well. So it's affected their emotional states, their psychology. But you see, you see, difficulties or challenges in life are really there to shift you out from your comfort zone, to help you grow, all right? To make you grow and get stronger. I mean, look, you'd even see pups, right? A dog would have a litter of pups, and you'd have, as they're growing, a group of the dogs will set on one of the other dogs. It's just set against it. You know, bullying that dog, bullying that little pup, yeah? And that pup, you know, looks all, you know, sad and meek, is getting all bullied, you know what I'm saying? And then you get people who would look at that little pup and take pity on that pup, you know what I'm saying? And think, oh, look at all the other, look at these brothers, look at these other dogs are just being so rough with that little pup out of the out of the family, right? And they may take that dog and think, oh, they're going to give it a home and they're going to be, because they feel so sorry for that dog being picked on all the time. But you see what happens here is that the dog that's getting picked on all the time and being roughly treated by, its siblings, the other pups, right? They are doing that because they know the dog's weak. Is weaker than all of them. So they're picking on the pup in order for the pup to get stronger. You see? For it to kind of stand up for itself. For it to begin to, bring out of itself what is inherent. Yeah, it's only the ability. Okay? But when you're looking from it from a perspective of the outside, you're thinking, oh, this is horrible. This little dog is just getting bullied. By the other ones, set upon by the other ones. And you're not realizing the real deal. So then now you go and take this pup because you're feeling sorry for the pup. Oh, it looks like the vulnerable one here is the weak one. It's getting set upon by the other dogs. Now, when you choose that puppy looks at you as weaker than him. Because the pup knows why its brothers and sisters are beating up on it. You see what I'm saying? But you don't understand the dog world. So you're going to project your own weaknesses onto that vulnerable dog, the vulnerable little pup. While that vulnerable little pup's looking at you now as weaker than itself because it knows what its brothers and sisters are trying to do. While you there think you're going to rescue this freaking little dog from its challenges, from its tribulations. And then what you're actually doing, all right. Okay. What you're actually doing is preventing that dog from going through its growth process to bring out the qualities that is inherent within the dog, but latent. So that dog would run amok around you when because remember, dogs need a leader to follow. You see, that's this temperament. I'm just giving this as an analogy. When we come up against challenges in our life, we think, oh my gosh, the challenges, oh, why should there be challenges? And the thing is that challenges is what makes you stronger. It's the way you perceive these challenges. Because the challenges is a creative tension or stress point. And when you face those challenges and resolve them, you become stronger. You become more empowered. You understand? But if you stay afraid and you don't want to kind of face those challenges, you stay where you are and you don't grow. You see what I'm saying? And it's not about just starting, you're just at the beginning and all of this type of stuff. What you mean? You're as a soul, you've been living lifetime after lifetime. You could be a 300,000 year soul. Yeah. But you're in this new fresh persona, and you believe, oh, you're just this, you're just some beginner. When you're not a beginner, you're underestimating yourself. You're limiting yourself. You're using fear. You're allowing fear to coil you and limit you, and basically it's fear you're listening to. Oh, I'm listen, man. Don't be limiting yourself. Don't be limiting yourself. But then again, you're going to have people that is limiting themselves because their conditioning, their beliefs, their fears. You understand? But what's happening is that the time we're in now is pushing you, is forcing you to have to speed up your shit. Yeah? It's forcing you to speed up. You cannot be, all these excuses that we make, and we think someone's being hard on us. If they turn around and give it, listen, man, And the thing is, listen, man, sometimes tough love is what's needed. Otherwise, you will not grow. You will use all the excuses in the book that you will use to keep yourself in the same place, in the same space. Come on, man. You see? So it's how you are perceiving what you consider a challenge. It's how you're perceiving it. Okay? So, y'all, I hope you're getting what I'm saying. It doesn't sound like I'm just ranting a whole heap of nonsensical information here. Because, as I said, I'm setting this up to kind of go into something else. And, which is related, but this is, I'm going to touch on this now. I consider, shall I give you guys a little break and bust a tune so you can listen to some music, yeah? Or shall I go straight into it? Because I'm going to be talking about energy, because everything is energy. And as I said, that archetypes, the archetypes in yourself represents the forces operating in nature and within you. Okay? And, yeah. Listen, y'all. I'm going to go into something here because I think we need to maturely talk about sex. Yes. Because sex, you cannot separate sex from life. And sex comes from the word six. And six are derived of 2 3s. And 2 3s are representative of the 2 triangles where you're dealing with the ascending triangle and the inverted triangle. And one of the triangles, the ascending triangle, represents the masculine, and the inverted triangle represents the feminine. You bring them together in a harmonious, balanced connection, and then you get the 6-pointed star, don't you? 6 is where you get sex from, because you're dealing with the union of the masculine and the feminine principle that resides within the soul. Yeah? As one being, one whole entity. All right? But from the human egoic personality, identity, we are seeing ourselves, oh yes, you're a man and you're a woman. You see what I'm saying? Because you got a masculine conscious ego, the feminine conscious ego. All right? So, but when I'm talking about the masculine and feminine from the divine aspect of energy, intelligence, and power, I'm talking about the nature in your soul, the aspect of your soul. So, sex, the big 3-letter word. And there is this inability for most of us to have a mature, in-depth, discussion and relationship with sex. Okay? Sex brings up a whole heap of ignorance in people, and yet they are supposed to be mature and big. Yeah? Mature and big people, you know. But you talk about sex, they're very immature. Very immature. And they got a lot of distortion in their minds, what they hold, man-made distortions, how they relate to themselves and this term called sex. Now, I've just given you and told you something you may never have heard before. I said how sex comes from the word 6, and how 6 is derived of 2 3s, and how you have to understand symbology, man. You got to go and study symbols and archetypes, because they are what governs. They're the governing principles within and forces within your psyche. Okay? And symbolically represented external to you in the form of men or women, or everything that is masculine in relationship, or everything that is feminine in relationship, right? To the masculine or feminine aspect of what you need to come into touch with within yourself. Within the feminine conscious ego, she's got to deal with the animus within herself, which is the masculine aspect of her nature. And within the masculine conscious ego, he has to deal with the anima, which is the feminine aspect of his nature. Now, this is soul energy, qualities, attributes, consciousness frequencies here, okay? This is not when it gets distorted and gets deflected into the conscious ego. This is when you get the female ego talking about distorting what this stuff is about. And I'm going to break some things down in a very, very, and I may have to kind of do another show on it because I was just building up to this, you see. Left brain, right brain. You have people say, oh, the left brain is the masculine, the right brain is the feminine. Yeah. The problem you got in this world is that you're not dealing with wholeness. One is either fighting the other. The other feels that the other is not, you see, the battle that a woman is having with the masculine principle and the battle that the masculine is having with the feminine principle is a war that's going on inside of you that you're projecting outside of yourself onto the men or the women that symbolize your inner archetype of the masculine or the feminine within you. And you're not doing your inner work. You're projecting your shit outside onto men or onto women, you see. And I'm going to really focus on the women right here now because there's an imbalance in the way the association and addressing the masculine, okay? It's like you got this distortion with the feminine ego, which is now turned into a masculine ego. It's not the feminine ego no more, okay? And there's an imbalance in the energies. And they are misleading a lot of women to kind of like actually cut their own selves off from their own femininity. Because of distortion. Because, you see, when a woman's having issues with the man, it's representing her issue she's having in the relationship with her own inner divine masculine. And she's experiencing negative relations with it, you see. And she's projecting that onto the man. And that's what's happening with the man. That's what's happening with the man as well, dealing with the anima, yeah? The feminine aspect within his soul. So when you're dealing with distortions in how to relate to yourself, you're going to project your inner distortions outside of you upon that which symbolizes the archetype that is within yourself, that force. And you're going to attack that. It's like attacking the mirror. And a lot of distortion in this area is messing up women because they think there's a battle between the masculine out there. Okay? They think you see, it's the patriarchy. Patriarchy is what's messed up everything. And we gotta, you see them women? They are traumatized and they're not healing their own selves. They're not seeing that your difficulty and your negativity is giving you an indication that something needs to be transformed inside of you. The masculine. The masculine, the negative relationship you're having with that archetype right at the moment is giving you the indication of what needs to be transformed in you. The way you're identifying with the masculine archetype in yourself. Now I'm going to read out something because this is where I'm going this evening with all of this. And if you're there with your intellect and won't tap into your intuition and understand that there's a deeper truth behind the limitations of your information, then you know that you gathered, then you're going to be imbalanced here. And you're not going to be able to access truth without the intuition. In fact, it should be an encouragement for us all to activate and exercise and develop our intuition. Because, you see, at the deeper level, your soul needs to understand itself cosmologically and metaphysically and philosophically, not intellectually. You see what I'm saying? That is for external, superficial information, showing you the diversity of how information can match up logically in so many different ways. But it still doesn't understand everything in a holistic context. It's only when you deal with the intuition to tap into truth. Because truth is what you have to tap into. Truth is not something that you get to through a logical, deductive process, rationale and all of that. That is mechanical stuff, okay? And it has its purpose and it has its uses, but it's limited. It's the intuition you got to tap into. So, sex. We don't talk about sex in its realness. We just get all messed up about it. You see what I mean? Or going like we know enough about it. And really what you're dealing with is a distortion, a lot of distortion about sex right now. Because what is sex? As I said to you, it comes from the letter 6, okay? It comes from number 6. And I've explained to you what 6 is derived of, 2 3s. And if you look into the tarot and you got the 6 tarot card, you're dealing, that's called the Lovers. When you're looking at the 6 major arcane, all right, that's the Lovers card. That's representing the balance. 6 represents balance and beauty, all right, when you're dealing with numerology, okay, symbology. People, you need to get in touch with the symbols. Because when you're just dealing with superficial information, you get distortions, okay? And you start to attack yourself. And I will tell you, anything a woman is negatively doing to whomever she, the masculine within herself, she's doing harm to her own self. Yeah? Vice versa with the man. Okay, so you believe you're into these women who are chatting about all the man this and cussing out and, they are destroying, they're messing up themselves. Okay? You have to understand what's going on here. So I'm going to chat about sex in the spiritual aspect, because sex is an exchange of energies and everything is sex. Everything is a sexual intercourse. You have energetic intercourse taking place all the time. Sex is a symbolic way of showing you the interaction of masculine and feminine energies, which is necessary for there to be life and reproductivity. You understand? Okay? It's natural law. But when you get into the man-made, unnatural law, the distortions of sex, then we do not relate to ourselves correctly. We relate in a distorted way. Okay? And this is what you're seeing taking place even big time now, more amplified. So can we talk about sex in a mature way? Or are we going to get all offended? Are we going to get all offended? Which is going to be what? The stuff you're personally taking offensively because of your own relationship you're having with yourself, which is not healthy. Because everything begins with the personal relationship one is having with themselves. It sets up the inner vibration that then becomes the magnetic energy that draws to you the reflection as another person, partner relationship, and how they're going to relate to you, which is going to reflect back to you the way you're relating to yourself. So you see, when folk ain't looking and realizing that everything is really a symbol of the archetypes, everything outside is a symbolic archetype of what's within you, you're going to then turn around and believe that you ain't done nothing to draw towards you the way you are being treated by whomever. Yeah, you don't realize it's going to be a reflection of the way you're relating to yourself. Because this is where all relationship begins. It begins with the relationship you're having or not having with yourself. And that's how do you listen and talk to yourself. The feelings that you're generating inside of you based upon habitual thoughts and feelings entrains the body to hold on to certain uncomfortable feelings, which becomes the vibration, which becomes your inner frequency, which then now becomes your magnetic energy that you draw towards you, people who will reflect to you, back to you, the kind of relationship you're having with yourself. Let me say it another way. If you are critical to yourself, that's the way you're relating. Very critical to yourself. Very judgmental to yourself. Okay? You will draw to yourself people who will also be critical, very critical and very judgmental of you. You understand, God? And then you think to yourself, oh, look how these people are being this way. I don't like how they are. But that's only a reflection of how you are with you. The moment you change the relationship you have with yourself, then you change what is drawn towards you. You see, a lot of us don't want to take no responsibility for flipping anything. It's always outside shit. You know what I'm saying? It's always outside. And when you get a lot of these women just blaming men for everything that's effed up in the world, these women are actually running away from the freaking work they need to do in themselves. And I know folks are going to disagree with me, but you know, women have been abused by men, and men have done this, and men have done that, and men, yeah. It seems like you seem to forget that there is a place called Holloway Prison. Yeah? Holloway Prison. It's a woman's prison. Okay? There's a whole heap of freaking women prisons. Not just freaking men are locked up in prison. And what do you think these women got locked up for? It wasn't for breaking a mother freaking, you know, fingernail or snapping a freaking, heel on their stilettos. Okay? It's because they did some abusive freaking fucked up shit. You know what I mean? Some people don't want me to use the F word on here. But the truth of the matter is that you got some really distorted and violent women. It's not just about men. Oh, men went around and effed up the world. Oh, see, it's a patriarchy. And you get these type of women who are not dealing with their own inner stuff, messing around with other women's minds and influencing them to become imbalanced within themselves. So now, all right. And then when we chat about sex, it's always about the man and the energy that he's bringing to the woman. I'm going to read out something because I put something up on my status the other day, and I intentionally put it up just to kind of see what responses would come from women and what responses from brothers. And, you know, some people just reluctant. I would have to say I got more responses from females than the men, though. But I did speak, you know, there were some brothers that did respond. And the response from the sisters weren't actually negative. They were quite, so it shows you that I got a lot more balanced women around. But they acknowledged, you know, but they did respond in the way that I did expect still. You know, usually when you say anything to a woman about, look, you know, their side, their involvement in the whole energy dynamics that we gotta be, that needs to be addressed, is usually responded by women in a way which is like, yeah, but men do that too. You know what I mean? This defensiveness, like, oh yeah, but men, but that's also with men. You know, they don't want to look at their own shit. You know, it's always deflected on the men. You see the men? Yeah, but the men do that. And I'm here to kind of address something here. Because when it comes to sex and the sexual energy on the spiritual aspect, yeah, a lot of women have made this all about men. You see, men are going to exchange energy with you, girl. And you got to be careful what energy you going to lay with, girl. You know, because this, you know, that man, you know, he could be a vampire. He could be this. He could be this, all, you know, and he's going to exchange that energy in you and mess you up. Now, that's giving the impression that you as a woman is a clean plate. And your energy is all clean and everything, and you're going to get contaminated by some bird. Now, I'm going to read out something here. And I'm fed up with this one-sided rubbish. Because this is causing confusion in the relationships and in how you're relating to yourself. And this left and right brain, intellect, intuition, you need to switch on this intuition. You need to come out from these limitations of this left brain thinking. All right? Sex, the spiritual aspect. When a man enters your womb, the type of energy and consciousness, yeah? What type of energy and consciousness is this man about? Okay, this is what you always hear with the women telling you about sex. All right? You know, when a man enters a woman, what type of energy and consciousness does he have? Is he bitter? Is he happy? Does he love himself? Does he love you? Is he positive or negative thinker? Yeah. And it's usually just always focused on the men. What kind of quality of energy this man is carrying. All right? It's always focused on the men. But I'm here this evening to flip and, you know, set the record straight and balance stuff up. Now, here's the question about to you women. When a lady makes love to you, it's a question to brothers. Brothers, listen to this. Ask yourself this question, and this is for women to reflect upon for their own selves. When a lady makes love to you, is she blessing you or cursing you? Is she bitter or is she happy? Does she love herself? Does she love you? Now, this is the same questions you would ask the man. Well, these are the same questions women need to ask, men need to ask themselves when they're about to enter into a woman and exchange energy with this woman. It's not just men exchanging energy with women, it's women exchanging energy with men. And there are guys, they've had experiences. Look, before they went out with a particular woman, they're kind of like, their energy is a certain way and they're very positive and, people know them in a certain way. They feeling their energy and, how that individual relates to them. And then he goes out with this woman. And after a while, this brother's energy changes. Changes in a way where this brother is no longer even looking as good and shiny as he used to look. Until this brother gets all messed up. And, people like to just kind of think things are just like, people just get, it's like, what's happened to this dude? People got their limitations. Some people have the intuitiveness and they may think, I think it's since he was going out with that girl, man, since he was hooking up with that girl, that woman, but they can't explain how, okay, the change takes place. Well, it's all energetic, yeah. And just like a man can influence, can have an impact on a woman in a positive or negative way, you have women that can have impact on men in a positive and negative way. Okay? And when it's negative, it mashes the man up. Because you got women that instead of a lot of women don't think about, what do I have to give? They're usually looking at, what can he do for me? What can I get from this dude? Because they're the receiving aspect, ain't they? You know what I mean? This is where a lot of women think. Okay? They don't think about, but what am I giving to this brother? What am I, as an energy, am I actually giving to this brother? And you get a lot of women, they underestimate a lot of men because they believe men don't have feelings because they're under that force doctrine and that force information. Oh, men don't have any feelings. So women are only interested in what a man thinks, not in his emotional. And if a man does get emotional, usually a woman would kind of go, oh, he's insecure, like they don't have insecurities themselves. You know what I mean? Oh, it's his ego. You see? This is some real BS going on, and it's leaving a lot of men messed up and effing them up. And you think that it's just men having an impact on women? Huh? You got women that have negative impact on men, okay, based on the energy that they are carrying. A lot of women, they're bitter inside of themselves. They're not in love with themselves, the relationship they have. A lot of women are caught up in a lot of negative thinking, and that the way they feel becomes habitual for them. And because the nature of a man is naturally, is that fire, naturally gives off energy, wants to be positive, that virility. So a woman may kind of be attracted to a man because of his positive energy at first. But excuse me, what's her energy? Because she will benefit from a positive prayer, injecting her with that strength and that positive light. But if she ain't got no love in her, if she's just a bitter woman, if her energies, say, look, I know women, you sit down and talk with them and their overall basic fundamental feeling towards men is not healthy. All men are dogs, negative crappy thing. But they may like a particular brother. They may say, oh, I'm into this man. Oh, I like this dude. Yeah, you like this dude, but the dominant feeling that they got inside themselves for men overall is very negative. All right? So you'll hear them talk. Especially if something goes wrong in a relationship, men, a lot of these women go into that negative dive about men. You know, even if they're momentarily smiling with you, you still got to understand the makeup of various women. You know, what is their predominant energy? You see, usually you just hear about men and women chatting about man this, man that, man this. Yeah, man, I'm all them sitting there. But when you go and say, yeah, woman, but you need to check your own energy as well. It's like they don't want to spend time and focus on that. They want to spend more time focusing on the man. Like they themselves don't have no work to do. I don't need to clean out the shit in my fripping drawer. Only he needs to do that. You see, this is the madness going on. This is what you call projection. This is your inner archetype is activating within you. And rather than look inside of yourself to deal with the source of where the issue is coming from, you project it out onto the man that symbolically represents the masculine archetype in yourself. You see, this is what's going on, man. All right. So brothers can get all hooked up in a woman because she looks a certain way. She projects a certain attitude. Look, man, women have all of this stuff, makeup, all this stuff, so they can wear a mask and present themselves in a particular way that they don't even look. You know, I'll just be real with this, y'all. You know what I mean? There's a whole heap of that going down, right? They step and approach with a fake ass face, okay? Don't get me wrong now. I'm not saying that, you know, look, man, women wear makeup and enhancing what they naturally have. It's all cool. But you look, even women know stuff has gone overboard now. Yeah? Stuff has gone overboard now. Things are so distorted. You're not even sure if someone that looks like a woman is actually a woman and not a man made up like looking like a woman. You have to, you know, that's how distorted it is. All right? So you're going to turn around and see women have these things they can put on a mask and make a man say, ooh, wow, you know, he's attracted to that. Oh, that looks good. She puts on an attitude. That makes him think, wow, she's a pleasant type of woman. But her energy, her predominant energy that she carries is not something that's going to necessarily be nourishing to that man if he lays with her. And he could be positive and ends up getting drained out. Right? Ends up getting drained out. Because sex is about merging with, ultimately, sex is about merging with the higher power, the higher forces in the universe. Yeah, this is why sex in a sacredly approach can bring healing. It can transcend you out of time, beyond time and space. Sexual intercourse, when you're dealing with sacred sex, when you're approaching it with positive energy, you're carrying positive energy in you, woman, and the brother's carrying positive energy in him. All right? Then sex then becomes a transformational and healing experience instead of a means to distort and control and manipulate one or the other. Yeah? Instead of a means of exchanging with energy at the expense of another because you're a damn vampire. You see what I'm saying? Telling the truth. There's female vampires and male vampires. You know, you can't get away from this and try to make out it's all about one or the other. But what we have had is an imbalance of where it's all about the men. Oh, the man is this, the man is that, and da 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 da, and da da dee. And the woman, she can, you know what I mean? She can have gunk stuck up in her ass and don't have to look at it. You see what I mean? Because it's all the man's problem. And I said at the beginning, when I started to do this rendition of what I'm discussing, all right, I said it all begins with the relationship you have with yourself. How you're relating with yourself is what's setting up the type of relationships you draw to you and how they will reflect back to you the quality of relationship you're having with yourself or the quality of the relationship that you're not having with yourself. You see, as I said, we're moving into a time where we've just completed a cycle, okay? Uranus in Aries that was being in there for 7-8 years, okay? So this Aries is about self-identity, intrinsic identity, not your superficial, conditioned, you know, identity, okay? We're talking about authentic self, to be real. So this is what the new cycle is kicking in. You're going to find that you're going to be a different than how you thought you were, or who and what you were identifying with previously. You're going to find all of that just falling away, because you're now going to experience yourself in a new way. You're going to have to come home to realize your intrinsic, unique identity. And have to seek to find a sense of inner value from the inside, not what's externalized. Okay? You know, people are very material, then their sense of value comes, they see themselves as an object and everything else is an object, so therefore their sense of self-worth and value comes from more objects. You know what I'm saying? So this is all changing now. So when I said now, when the lady makes love to you as a man, brothers, is she blessing you or cursing you? Is she bitter or is she happy? Does she love herself or does she love you? Sex is a ritual of exchanging energies, thoughts, emotions, and spirits. During sex, you become a spiritual sponge for the consciousness and energy of that other person. You hear that? Each pump and thrust is an affirmation. Each pump and each thrust is an affirmation, y'all. Yeah? Are they draining your life force and energy, or are they recharging, healing, and refueling your spirit? Be mindful of the true power of sex. And this is why I said we need to have a mature discussion about sex. Because sex is interrelated in everything that you're dealing with. Everything. Okay? You cannot separate sex from life. You cannot separate sex from the relationship you're having with yourself. You cannot separate sex from the everyday goings-on and functionings and operations of your world and your life. You cannot. Look, you're breathing in and out. Sex. Breath, air is penetrating you and being projected out of you. In and out. Yeah, the whole in and out motion, penetration and giving and receiving. Yeah, giving and receiving. See, that's the sex, yeah. If I need to plant something, I get this seed. And what I got to do with the seed? All you, horticulturalists, you all know what you're going to have to do with the seed first if you want that seed to grow into whatever the nature of that seed is. Yeah, you got to penetrate that seed into the soil. So now the soil can receive that seed and now become a gestation of that seed. That's sex, people. Penetration. You got frequencies moving in and out of you all the time that you cannot see. It's called energetic intercourse. Yeah. So sex. I'm talking about sex. And I'm talking about it beyond Salt and Pepper's freaking track back in the 90s. Yeah? Because we're actually dealing with the energy exchange. What is sex all about? In the ancient times, sex was seen as the quickest way towards enlightenment. But then through the 2,000 years we have of Christianity, sex has been seen as something to shame and feel guilt about. And then you end up having sex taken away, yeah, distorted from natural law, and now you got distorted, unnatural orientations with sex. You see? So people usually look at the distortions of sex and then turn around and believe that sex is the problem when it's actually your approach to it and how you're relating to this powerful force that resides in all of creation. You see? So you have women that are bitter and they're containing and holding on to. You got women that hate men, but they got a partner. And they may, on the surface, like this man. But deep down, the energy that the relationship they're having with their inner masculine is a negative one. They haven't transformed the negative experience of the masculine or the negative relation to the archetype of the masculine in themselves. So when they're sleeping with their man, he is getting those energies transferred into him that weakens his ass. Not strengthening him, healing him. A woman could receive healing energy from a man, but at the same time, what energy she's taking from him because she ain't got a positive vibe in herself. She's just living off the positive vibe he's penetrating into her. But what positive vibe, energy, that charge does she hold in her cup? What is she housing? Does she look at that? The way women think that generate the feeling, which feelings that they end up having more times is not positive. The things women take on, a lot of the drama and crap that they watch, all of this rubbish, that impacts their feelings to be negative. So when you laying with a man, that's the crap you giving him. And when things mess up in his energy field and he now starts to react towards you, which is a mirror now, you're going to go on and say that, no, man, he's just crazy. You haven't contributed to the way this guy's become. I'm telling you, man. There's enough men that are in psychiatric wards after, getting messed up with the energy exchange that they've received from women who are they're just destroyers. They're just like, is what they can get. They're not thinking about the quality of what they're giving. They're just thinking about the quality of what they can get, so they can control and hold on to. I'm not saying all women are like this. I'm not saying all women are like this. There are positive, lit up women. And you see, this is the thing that turns on a mature man. Because women perceive that men are not in tune with their intuition. They're not connected to the feminine qualities within themselves. Or if they are, then they must be gay. And that's the distortion. That's the distortion. Where you see men overcompensating with you see, that's where you get the distortion. Because that's when the spiritual knowledge gets deflected into the ego aspect, okay, the ego, and then it distorts that information. You see what I mean? And then you end up having this exaggeration of, you get a gay man or a lesbian woman, you see? And then some folk don't understand this because they're not dealing on the soul level. They're identifying too much with their physical form. You see what I'm saying? So they don't understand the balance and how to and what is actually needs to be addressed in the masculine feminine forces within you as a soul. You see what I'm saying? They get caught up in identifying with the physical body and think, and getting things all twisted. You see what I mean? So these are questions that a man has to also ask himself as equally as a woman before he lays down with a woman. Is she evolved? Does she have good energy to give to me? Is my energy going to be complemented by this woman? Not just about a woman looking about what she can get, and she neglects the state of her own cup. Huh? Flip, man. There'd be enough men messed up with women, man. There've been enough men messed up because they end up laying down with women who had no love inside of them. They had no love for the masculine inside of them, only complaints and trauma and bitterness and negativity. You see what I'm saying? But they had a superficial like to the man that they were with, okay? But when that man kind of did something or said something or behaved in a way that pissed them off, it just kind of brought, then you end up seeing the real deal of what's going on inside of the woman, okay? Because that man that you're dealing with is also a representation, a reflection of the masculine archetype inside of yourself. And the nature of the relationship you're having, or the quality of the relationship you're having with that man, is reflecting the quality of the relationship you're having with the masculine archetype in you, woman. So when all women turn around and say some horrendous shit about men and put out all of that energy, that negative energy, you're doing it to yourself. You're disconnecting your own self from your femininity because you have an overreacting, overactive masculine thinking mind. You no longer have a feminine ego, you got a masculine ego. So that means you now begin to experience the masculine in a negative way. And what that does, you see, is like, that now is what you would call a woman's negative animus, a woman's negative masculine archetype, which actually destroys her own femininity. Okay? So what happens, you have a woman who, who's got too much, she's got too much male conscious thinking, right? With insufficient feminine feeling. And then you got a lot of women who believe that men don't have feelings. They just, it's all about what they think. You see, that's all stupid rubbish. And that's the reason why a lot of women don't they don't pay any mind to the man's feelings. Only they got feelings. What they're concerned about is what the guy thinks. So therefore, they're not connected at all. Yeah, they're disconnected because they got a false premise in how they're relating to men. Okay? Men, and that's a belief. You believe men are not connected to their feminine. When there are men who are very connected to the feminine aspect of themselves, and therefore they're intuitive, very intuitive, and they can feel into you. While you think that it's only you can feel whether a man, what a man's about, a brother can freaking feel into you. Right? A brother who is spiritually cultivated, he can feel right into a woman and says, listen, man, he knows what's going on with that. In fact, it's the first thing a man is asking himself, how do I feel around this woman? Okay? Yes, you got brothers who are disconnected from their feminine qualities within themselves. And I'm not talking about feminine as you're talking about, you got a woman, literally like a woman in you. I'm talking about qualities of energy. You're talking about consciousness, intelligence. I'm going to have to break this down more as I begin to explain about what we call, as we explain about the animus and the anima. Because y'all need to kind of take your time to you need to learn about symbols and archetypes. And you got to understand that the term psychology originally came out of the 12 houses of the zodiac. Without the 12 houses of the zodiac, you would have no psychology. Psychology means the study of the psyche, which is the mediator between your soul and your human identity. Okay? The psychology originally comes out from the 12 houses of the zodiacus, the wheel or the disc of life. Psychology comes out of the study of the 12 archetypes that reside within you, within your consciousness. The 12 constellations in the heavens corresponds with the 12 cranial nerves in your brain. The 12 hours on the clock come from the 12 houses of the zodiac. You understand me? There is the origin and source of where a lot of things are being derived from, but when you don't understand its origin, you just end up looking at something and think, it just came about. Yeah? It just came about without understanding its roots and its origin. So then you end up just having a man-made version of something, and you don't understand the original natural version of it. Okay? So you end up getting caught up in the artificial and not the authentic. And do you see in this world that we're living in now, they want many people to mistake what's artificial for natural. Okay? They want you to make you take the unnatural for the natural now, and take the natural for unnatural. They want you to take the counterfeit for the authentic, and the authentic for the counterfeit. That's how twist up the whole thing is, because it's a sign of an end of an era. So every time you're coming to an end of an era, each sign, okay, in the zodiac, right, in each sign in the constellation is an age that represents 2,160 years. So when I say we're coming out of an age, we're coming out of the Piscean age, which was 2,160 years. So we're entering into a new age, which is going to be a 2,160. All right? Or 2,120. Okay? And therefore, you're dealing with the transition of the decaying of the old, the entropy, the involution. Right? Because for you to have the new, the old has to pass away. if you're going to put on new clothes, you got to take off the present ones you got on now. You see what I'm saying? So for the new to come, the old must die. You see what I'm saying? It's part of the cycle. Life, death, rebirth. You see what I'm saying? So this is what we're experiencing. So the madness or the distortions is actually signs of the purification of all that which has to go. Look, relationships are distorted now because it's meant to be, because they cannot go back to operate on the old foundations that they were operating with before. So relationships are going to change and transform based upon the way you're relating with yourself. What is really relating? You see what I'm saying? Before, it was all ego stuff. You're making the other person responsible for the relationship you should be having with yourself. And what you fall short on, you're going to turn around and say that the partner is responsible for. You understand me? And then now it's his fault or her fault for the way you feel and what you ain't and all of this and all of that. You hearing me? I hope you is. I trust that I'm not coming across to what you call comprehensible, because this does get deep. And that's why it says you cannot just be holding on to your intellect and thinking that, you know, that's what's going to get you through in this time. You need to tune in to the deeper knowledge beyond the superficial aspect of the information you gather. You have to get inside something in order to know the thing. You see what I'm saying? Just like, you know, there's this saying, like, you know, in the art of war, like, you know, if you don't really know someone until you fight them, you don't know the man until you fight the man. Well, it's also like you really don't know the man or know the woman until you have sex with them. And you got people like, again, their negativity about sex, you know. You don't know someone until you have sex with them, I'm telling you that. You know? And, you know, you have a certain idea about them, but it's only when you experience energetically one another, you can know, wow, where they're coming from and where they're not. Because, again, it's the energy exchange. Yeah? You see? So, you know, it's, you know, what I'm going to go into, man, is going to take another show, right? Because what energies are you holding on to in yourself, women, that you're exchanging with men? Are you one who is bitter? Are you one who is happy? Are you one who is blessing a brother, or are you one cursing them? Listen, man, there are women who get so pissed off with certain men, right? They're so, you know, their relationship, their work in science, obia, they're stuffing that man in a jar and slamming them in the freezer, man, because, oh, he disrespect me. Do we know who I is? All right, nigga. And then you're going to now what? Do what? You're going to do some witchcraft and spell on this brother. Yeah? You want to put a curse on this brother. This is the way a lot of, listen. You can feel that some women, you can feel in them. They're when I say dark, I'm using the term, there's no light. There's shadow in them. They ain't lit up. They're not positive. They're not full of life. They're full of bitterness. They're full of dense vibrations. And if you're going to lay with that, they may benefit from you more than you with them. You understand what I'm saying? And there be enough brothers who's even died be going out with women. You see, because you're not going to deal with this from a spiritual level. You're going to think, oh, it's just physical, eh? You don't understand. It's energies, man. It's energies. You know, people get sick and people end up dying because their energy, their life force has become depleted. Because the woman that this man is being with has just been cursing him all the fucking time. Excuse me for swearing here, but do I need to say excuse me? We're big grown-up people. But yes, there's no need to. And anyway, again, there's a question like that. What's the swear word? We've been conditioned to kind of say this is right to say, this is not right to say. So you know, your expression to be real gets very contrived and controlled, and then, oh gosh, so you don't offend egos. Huh? You don't offend persons who have issues in themselves about certain things, certain statements. They're not dealing with themselves as a soul, they're just human egos. You see what I mean? I want you to cater to how the human ego feels rather than getting in touch with your authentic self. So there we getting caught up, being controlled. Our behaviors are being controlled by each and every one. People want to be themselves, but they don't want to allow you to be yourself. Now you got all this political correctness that you can't even, you got to be careful how you express and say what you say. Huh? You know what I'm saying? When to be real is really to be coming from your authentic self, your authentic nature, your soul. So to talk about sex from a spiritual aspect is very important. And oh man, I will touch on what this animus and anima that I have just mentioned. For those of you who still there with me, write down this word. Animus, anima. A-N-I-M-U-S. Then you put a slash. And then you put after that A-N-I-M-A. This is basically, animus is the masculine and the anima is the feminine. Okay? These are symbolic figures of the masculine forces in a woman and the feminine qualities in a man. Okay? So a woman has to deal with her animus, and a man has to deal with his anima. And it's about integrating the animus and integrating the anima. Okay? Now, I think I'll give you about 3 minutes of what I want to try and say to you. But I'm going to have to come back next strong and go deeper into this. And those who are interested, do send me your thoughts and feelings to say, shall I go into it more? All right? Because this is very, very important stuff, y'all. The energy exchange through sex. Sex is a beautiful, sweet thing. It's beautiful. But people's attitude to it and their miscomprehension about it and their immature approach to it it's now something which is abusive, and you believe it's the sex that is the problem. It's you. It's like saying guns don't kill people, people do. Knives don't stab people, people stab people. You see what I'm saying? The knife and the gun is just an instrument. It's a tool. It has to be used by its own self. It doesn't do anything. So it's how you approach and the usage in how you approach something, how you use something, I should say. Okay? How you're working with something. How are you using sex? How are you working with sex? You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to turn around and demonize sex. Sex is beautiful. But if it's approached incorrectly, then you're dealing with your nightmares, y'all. Your sadomasochistic stuff. You see what I'm saying? So you can't escape sex. Everything is intercourse. Everything energetically, you see, everything is intercourse. And as I said, that sex comes from 6, and it's the triangle. The upward triangle represents the fire, the masculine, ascending. Yeah, the inverted triangle represents the feminine, receiving. One is fire, the other is water. They come together, you generate life. You see, for reproduction. So that's where you're getting your 6 and your sex from. So you cannot deal with one without the other. So the animus and the anima, these are symbolic figures of the masculine. So the animus would be the symbolic figures of the masculine forces in a woman, and the feminine qualities, the anima, in a man. Okay? These lie in the shadow realms of the unconscious. And as with everything unconscious, it is easier to get to know them through the imagination than through the intellect. So straight up, y'all, you see the limitations of your intellect. If you want to get to who you really is through, which takes you have to go in through the unconscious. It's the symbology, it's the archetypes, it's imagery, which is why they make a lot of these cartoons for the children, all right, your Walt Disneys and all of that, in order to hijack the imagination, because it's the bridge and the access to the unconscious, which is your subconscious. And it's a feminine principle. Notice how women, they're very close to their whole imagination stuff. I mean, think about the females, the books, Storyvilles, imagination. Oh my gosh, the stories that women, hey man, women buy most of the books. You see? Because this is the bridge. The imagination is the bridge towards the unconscious. So, the animus in a woman, right, as well as the anima in a man, just letting you know, these lie in the shadow realms of the unconscious. And as with everything unconscious, it is easier to get to know them through the imagination than through the intellect. They are the main waking path or bridge to the unconscious, and therefore the route to the self. For a man, the anima is the feminine guide across that bridge to the other side of himself. As the feminine muse was the inspiration of the poet, so the anima is the guide and the inspiration for the ordinary man in the creative work of living, making something of each day, in contrast with merely existing and getting through time. For a woman, the animus performs the same function. If you are a woman, yes, women, everything in symbolism that is classed as male refers primarily to the masculine forces at work in your life. In your life. These may be experienced cosmically as the masculine side of nature, or as the men in your ordinary extrovert life, or experienced inwardly as your personified animus figure. If you are a man, the same is true of everything feminine in the world and your relationship with it. The archetypal figure experienced inwardly is a symbol of the relationship between man and all that is feminine at whatever level. The feminine principle in nature, the core of the archetype, cannot be experienced directly, but only as it manifests itself in woman, etc. Men get cut off from this experience if they lose contact with that part inside themselves which responds and corresponds to the feminine. Okay? Now you got the negative side of both. Like the shadow, the figure of the opposite sex has many dark, menacing qualities which may be the first to manifest, indicating the time has come to tackle the problem. Hey, but check this out, what usually happens. A lot of women, they're projecting this stuff out onto the screen. You see, look what I just said here. You see, it all depends about the harmonious relationship of the sexes, right? Within yourself. You see, the harmonious relationship of the sexes is a major concern of symbolism. From the sacred wedding, if you go into mythology of Zeus and Hera, or Asa and a Set, okay? Or maybe Heru and Heteru, or Amen, Amente, or anything to do with the union or a conjunction with planets, okay? Like Mars and Venus. Yeah, this is all symbolic of the alchemy to the happy ending, or the goal, or the fairy stories, yeah? It is an integral part of the larger problem of the union of conscious and the unconscious. You see, the animus is the masculine figure in women's psyche. And the archetypes of this masculine figure is the father, the brother, the husband, and son to the feminine conscious ego. All of the complex, mythical, incestuous relationships, as in the royal families of ancient Kemet, are symbolically related to the changing role of the animus in a woman's life. Now check this out, what I just said. A lot of people take that literally and actually thought that women were having ancestral relationships with the father, the mother, the brother, the son, you know what I mean, the husband, when these are symbolic. You see, when people take stuff literally, this is where the intellect distorts everything, because it has a limitation. It doesn't understand the deeper meaning and representation of the information that is gathering from the outside, which are actually symbolic representations of something far more deeper that's taking place within you. So you see what happens when the intellect takes stuff literally. You're going to actually believe that this is about people having incestuous relationships. And then you're the one perverted in your thinking, because you don't understand the language of symbology and the workings of the archetypes existing within your own self. Yeah. I said a lot there, didn't I? So, if you're still there with me, if you are still there with me, you know, because, you know, it's about, I'm teaching to reacher, not really a preacher. You see what I mean? It's about teacher to reacher, to expand the consciousness, because this is part of my work here. Preachers just tell you stuff to believe. I'm telling you stuff you can get verification of it being true. All you got to do is do your own observation and do your own little research. And if you sit and you inter yourself, you will see that the stuff I'm talking about is not just, you know what I mean, my opinions, okay? And just riveting off, you know, like I just want to flip and give you my mental bias. That's what you're brought up in. That's the stuff I'm working on. I'm about getting out of, you see? So you gotta be dealing with yourselves, women, because there are women who are distorted in themselves. They are not dealing with their inner relationship they're having with their masculine. What they're doing is projecting all of their unresolved stuff out onto every man that they see. And they're gonna turn around and make you think this is about spirituality and you gaining back your strength and power. Oh, yes, it's because the women are getting stronger and more powerful. Huh? Yeah, that's why men are just insecure. They're just afraid because women getting their power back. You ain't getting no ass power back if you're dealing with that. You're actually disconnecting yourself from yourself, and you are actually destroying yourself. But you go listen to these type of women who just want to tell you about, oh, I'm a goddess and all them sitting. But you know, you hate man. Your relationship with yourself is indicating the relationship you're having with the masculine within you, the archetype, the symbology, and you project your unresolved stuff based upon the relationship, the unloving relationship you're having with yourself. You project that onto man, external to you, and not seeing that, you see, the man and the quality of relationship you're having with whatever man in your life is a reflection of the quality of the relationship you're having with the masculine archetype inside of yourself. Huh? And you got to work towards getting tuned with that, harmonizing that energy. Huh? Integrating that energy within you, and there is a negative and positive experience or expression of that archetype, just like there is a negative and positive expression of the feminine archetype with that men have to wrestle with. You see? So this is a time where you got a lot of women want to go on about their spiritual and goddesses and oracles, and they are just ego. Yeah, as much as they want to turn and run down men and talk about all this man and that. Listen, man, remember, the ego, the persona, means mask. And women have been conditioned to actually cater more to the mask in society that they wear with the makeup. Huh? Then you're going to turn around and say that, you know, only men have egos. Yeah. Your personal self-image is really what a lot of women live in and assess themselves in. You know, rather than tapping into the deeper aspects of their soul. They're already connected to the feminine, but they disconnect themselves from their feminine nature when they have an overactive and negative association with the masculine principle within themselves. You don't see how it goes? They're overthinkers. Now you get women, they're just masculine conscious egos. A lot of them are men. Because they think. Thinking like them. And the way they think is affecting the way they feel. You see? So they're stuck in a loop because they've conditioned themselves with those habitual thoughts, which keeps them feeling less than beautiful, less than who they really is, and less than love and shining and bright. They now become dull. They don't have that life and youth inside of them. You see what I'm saying? So that habitual thinking, which generates those habitual feelings, is what you're programming your body with. And then you go on like you cannot change your vibrations, but that now becomes your dominant vibration. Man. I hope you guys are getting what I'm saying, man. I hope you guys are getting what I'm saying. Because usually no one's going to talk like this, because you get intellectualized women who want to turn around and tell you about some intellectual psychological approach on a man and said, no, you don't know nothing. You can't talk about women because you not a women. But it doesn't stop women from talking about men, and they're not men. So come on, people, please. You know what I'm saying? And where I'm coming from, I'm talking about something far more deeper and more important than the superficial arguments that most of this stuff is, gets held into, So the animus, the masculine figure in a woman's psyche, y'all, that's the father, the brother, the husband, the son. And that is to the feminine conscious ego. So, there's a lot of women who's had a lot of distorted relationships with the father, the brother, the husband, and the son. That symbolizes and represents the masculine archetype within their psyche. Okay? So all the complex, mythical, and incestuous relationships are not literal. They are about the changing relationships within a female psyche that she's having with the masculine archetypes within herself. The father, the brother, the husband, the son. It's not that she's literally having sex with all of them. You see what's going on? You see people, the intellect. You guys some folk will just hold on to the intellect all day long and go jump up and down like they know something. And don't realize how distorted that their thinking is, because they do not know anything. They don't know the deeper truth. They're just superficial. Information is what they're holding on to, and their opinions that they're deriving from whatever, superficial information they're dealing with. So, so what happens here? Councils or courts of gods or men are a common representation of this symbol, since the animus may manifest itself in the form of a group, voice, or an accepted belief. Quite often, corporate opinions allow us to adhere without thought. This is clearly a danger, and all such beliefs should be examined in a light of inner experience. Symbols deal with the typical situation of the traditional woman, who is well adjusted emotionally, but occasionally refuses to analyze her world because she fears that such an examination might impede her feminine power. But by the contrast, the animus, the thinking function, has in many modern women received so much lavish attention as a consequence of the role of the woman being questioned and redefined by society, that it now dominates the psyche and might well impede a true expression of herself. You know what I'm saying? Or the true expression of self, which is her soul. That is to say, it is impossible and even common for certain women to have typically a masculine conscious ego with anima problems. This is what you see a lot. A lot of women got, typically masculine ego, and they got feminine problems, anima problems. Yeah? Feelings. They're disconnected from themselves, from their own femininity. Once this has been recognized, though, because a woman is closer to her, her femininity, is easier for her to develop the feminine side of her nature more easier than a man. But then it's also where you're dealing with the presumption and assumption that men are not connected to the feminine qualities in themselves. And that's a lie. There are enough men who are already connected to that feminine principle with themselves. They're connected to their heart. But what you get with the messed up stuff in society and culture conditioning is that, you got this stuff like gay, homosexuals. Oh, they're, the whole thing with the feminine and all of that. Oh, they must be gay and all that crap. and how men have been conditioned to feel that if they acknowledge their feelings or if they actually give attention to them, you know, that is weakness, because a man must, you know, must just, you know, not talk about how him feel and all him sitting. But you see how a man feels, he's fully aware of that inside of himself. And he's not necessarily going to talk about it, meaning express it in the way a woman does. But men are very in tune with their feelings in the sense of those who are spiritually cultivating, you know, themselves. So women, you need to stop going on like men don't have feelings, because that's you being misinformed. That's a stupidity. How can a woman even believe that to even be true? You know what I'm saying? You got a boy child, you got a girl child. If the boy falls down and hurts himself and he's crying, are you going to look at him and say, oh, he don't have no feelings, because he's a boy child? If the girl falls down, hurt herself and cry, you're going to run to the girl and go, oh, she's a girl child because she's got feelings. I mean, come on, man. If any woman out there still walks around with this forced doctrine that in their head about men don't have feelings, then, gal, you need to get yourself examined, because it's pathetic to have such a thought, especially if you have children, yeah? Boy child, girl child. You're going to chat about men don't have feelings. It's because you don't have any respect for the man's feelings. You see what I'm saying? So, but what are feelings? Feelings are derived from thoughts, and feelings are indications of the frequency of the vibration that you are lining up with. You see? So it comes back now to the inner relationship you're having with yourself. The inner relationship you're having with yourself. That's where it all begins. It sets up the inner vibrations. So look here. I'm not going to go on too much longer because this is quite a bit to get through. But I just explained that if a woman is not in alignment with her animus correctly, and especially what we're dealing with right now, we have women who are over-identified with their masculine, to the point where they have disconnected themselves from their feminine. So it's too much conscious thinking and too little feminine feeling, you see? So the thing is here with the animus in a woman, is the head is the focal point of the animus, in contrast with the heart. And all the symbols of the masculine thinking world are, for a woman, symbols of the animus side of her nature. But the dark, negative side of the symbol will be experienced more vividly. This is what this is what obviously is evident. Will be more meaningful in the typical situation. You see. I'm wondering if I should continue here, y'all. No, I'm going to give it a pause. I'm going to give it a pause for now. So, sex, from the spiritual aspect, is about exchanging of energy. Sex is about merging with the energy of whom you're exchanging energy with. When you're dealing with sex, you're dealing with the archetype of Scorpio, which is symbolic of the soul transmutation process and metamorphosis. And you're dealing with the urge to merge with higher universal forces, which is why sex, from its spiritual aspect, was seen in ancient times as a means of transcending the limited consciousness by transcending time and space through the climax, through the hot, intense, horny, sexual, satisfying, interchange or merging. Because you're merging with that which you want to become one with. You see what I'm saying? So sex was used as healing and transformation and regeneration and rejuvenation in ancient times. It wasn't looked upon in the distorted ways that you look upon it now. And even, even talking about sex, right where I'm just using the word sex, it triggers certain stuff. There's an emotional response in certain people, men and women, about the sex. We ever talk about sex? Look how they relate to themselves. And these people most probably got children already anyway. and you can't handle mature discussion of sex. You can't go into a deeper spiritual discussion about sex. And I don't mean about, oh, let's just have candles and, voiceless music playing in the background and you're trying to have some sacred sex. You know what I mean? All that superficial, you know what I mean? Mucky towel. I mean, those things can set the mood, yeah. But I'm talking about how you have to perceive it in yourself first as sacred. And that doesn't mean, oh, well, no sex before marriage, all of those conditionings. No, man. It's really how you feel inside yourself, because you're a sexual creature. As I said, sex comes from the word six, the number six. And six represents balance, beauty, morality. And 6 is 2 threes, 2 triangles, 1 ascending, 1 inverted, masculine, feminine, fire, water, unified together is the generator of life, the great creative principle. Okay? The oldest symbol referring to the creator or the creative generative force was the lingam and the yoni. Hence you got the women talk about their yoni. But the lingam and dede, the lingam. You see? That's where you get the word even language and tongue from. Yep. Yes. And you see, it interconnects with other things where some people are not going to be ready to talk about because they're going to think, we are talking about, you know what I mean? They're scared of the word associations of it all. You know what I mean? But you got to understand the whole thing about sexual exchanging of energy. It's supposed to be the most wonderful thing, beautiful experience, yeah? Not for control and manipulation, but for transformation and transcendentation or transcendental, you know what I mean? Impulse to activate within you, take you to another world, transport you to another dimension. You see what I'm saying? You see? But as I'm saying, women's attitude towards the masculine principle within themselves is where they're having all their problems. And they project it on every man that they see. And if that's how they feel about those men, that's the energy she's got within herself. So if a brother sleeps with her, she's just cursing his ass. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Women need to love themselves. And loving yourself means to also love that masculine aspect in you. So if you're having a negative relationship with it at the moment, which is indicating transformation needs to take place, work inside, then do that work. So you can get to the other side and experience the positive aspect of the masculine, which then liberates you from the dead corpse you have got hidden in your room. Yeah? Yeah? Because women got a dead corpse in their unconscious, which is they've killed off their femininity. Yeah? In order to be this masculine, imbalanced creature, rather than understanding they're supposed to balance the masculine with the feminine. That's the whole thing of the rise of the feminine. It's about the balance, bringing back the wholeness, the awareness of the wholeness between both. You see what I'm saying? Not for it to be hijacked by the female ego to the feminine ego, which then gets into an imbalancement and now becomes a masculine ego in herself. While she looks physically like a woman, she's a man inside, cut off from her femininity, and therefore she's cold, doesn't know how to access and open up her heart because she's living in fear, because she's trying to control that fire, which is going to be very difficult for her to control, because that's fire energy you're dealing with. You know how the man has to integrate the anima within himself. I can talk about that too, but you know what, I'm going to call it a night because it has reached to that point. So yes, so understand the intellect is limited, y'all. Understand that the imagination is the tool as a bridge to connect with your unconscious, so you can decondition your unconscious and connect with your true self, which resides there. So now you can then get the unity of the conscious and the unconscious. So you become a whole being in the realization of yourself and how you relate. Yeah, which is the soul, and it's beyond your human egoic mind. Okay, all right. So yo, people. Okay, I'm going to be making a move now, and I'm going to be playing Yep, just gonna give you an outro. So yo, so I'm gonna catch you on the flip side, and be with you again next Tuesday on the Cosmic Roots Show. And I'm gonna continue this talk about the sexual energy, spirit from a spiritual aspect, which is energy. You gotta deal with the energetics. I mean, so women, last thing I'm gonna say, check yourself. Stop thinking that it's all about just the man. It's about you too. The energy that you harbor is the energy and what you're doing to a man. You're either draining him or strengthening him. You're either weakening him or strengthening him. You're either draining him or recharging him. I'm telling you that straight up. Yeah? If you're going to mess around with men and to go on like, say, you ain't doing nothing to these men. It's only men doing stuff to you. There's a lot of men who's been messed up because they've gone with the wrong woman. Yeah? And I'm not saying that that's not the brother's responsibility, because at the end of the day, it's still going to be reflecting the kind of relationship you're having with the masculine or feminine, okay, within yourself. But because we've been conditioned, men have been conditioned to be a certain way and think this is what a woman wants. Women have been conditioned to be a certain way and think this is the way she has to be towards a man, okay? And because of those misinformation through all of that indoctrination and forced beliefs and conditioning, man-made stuff, people have not been able to guide themselves correctly, so they have ended up getting caught up with things, with people, and persons that has messed them up, okay? And some are strong to come out of it, okay, and recreate their life, and some are messed up for the rest of their duration of life in this particular incarnation because of it. So, So anyway, y'all, I'm going to continue next Tuesday. So until then, I wish you all the best. And yes, have a good shadow hour. Okay? One love.
Roots. From illusions to us real. Whoa.